All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Kirk's Law Corner Monday Night Law. We're here. We're here.
We made it.
It is
Sort
Monday,
of.
right?
I think so. I wait a minute. Check the wind. Feels like Monday.
Yep.
Ugh.
We're a little bit behind because of certain discussions going on in Zoom prior to the show, but it is what it is. But we're here. So, how about that weather, huh? 100% chance of weather, no matter where you're at, whether you like it or not.
Right. Oh man, dude. Yep, it's back to Monday. I miss the good old days when my computer was down, so I was spending all my time horsing around with that. Well, now that it's back up and working, now I actually have to work again. Now I got twice the work to do to catch up with. Oh God.
Right?
Anyway, but as if Mondays didn't already suck for me. It is what it is.
Oh yeah, your Mondays are usually your roughest day of the week, so
Yeah.
has been
In
for
this
a while, huh?
in this business, Monday's a front loaded week, or my weeks are what's called a front loaded week, right? To get ready, we review what happened the previous week, right, and get set up for the week to come. So, this way we're not lagging behind, and so literally having to do 2 weeks in you know in one day that I normally do in one day. Taxing. It's a little taxing, especially when you have to do it multiple times. So,
Right?
you know,
Have you ever heard the saying, I can only please one person a day, and today's just not your day, and tomorrow's not looking so good either.
right? Holy Lord.
With as many people wanting us to please them, phone calls, emails, messages, it's so overwhelming, and it's hard to try and you know even look and read half of them because there's just not enough time in a day, and let alone to respond to them. And a lot of them are the same. Can you help me with my case? Can you help me with my case? Well,
Yeah.
are you tuning in? Are you watching the educational
Mhm.
videos? Because that's the help we're providing.
Matter of
Aside
fact,
from actually physically doing the case for you, which is not what we're really about. You
well,
know.
and again,
Now
let's
here's part of
talk
what we were
about,
discussing earlier.
yeah, you know, the emails that you guys are sending us, you send those to your legislature, right? To whoever your legislator is, right? And say, well, is there no committee for this, right? Well, if there's no committee for it, maybe we need to build one of those, right? If you build it, they'll come.
Hmm.
So obviously you're there because of something that happened or somebody created something in Congress and you have a grievance against it, right? So whatever that thing is, pick the thing. Okay. Well, you want to create a selection of committees. So this is what you want to do, right? Because chances are I'm not the only one with this problem. Remember, how many times have I said it? Trump and I had the same problem, foreign emoluments, right? Shit made up
Hmm.
from, in my case, it stemmed back to 1996 from, with him and Nonads Nadler. It goes back even farther than that. But, you know, kind of the long and the short of this is I said, okay, where's oversight on Title IV? And everybody stared at their shoes. Hey, guess what? We're going to do that. Well, again, when we went through the process and we're like, oh, you mean foreign emoluments have no standing in law? As if we didn't already know that. But okay, well, the fact is they're here. They've been here since 1996, right? That's where the
Right.
wheels came off the wagon, right? That's why I said, you want to fight or do you want to win? So a couple of things happen with that. The first most beneficial thing that can happen with that in my case was I get to now exclude the wife and the kids. Now I get to go in there and break my 6 pillar manly firmness foot off in someone's ass for pulling shenanigans while I was at work. Because that's really what this is about, right? The rest of this is a political argument.
That's yeah, that's the key. People need to comprehend that it's a
Yeah,
political argument,
it's
not a
not a
judicial
judicial
one.
argument. It's a political argument. So, looking at the Trump, let's review the Trump case, right? There were two of them,
Mm-hmm.
and they were both remanded on appeal to be dismissed with prejudice for lack of standing. There's no standing in law, right?
What's that?
Well,
Motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim for which
for
relief
which
can be
relief can be
granted?
granted, right?
Because the judicial branch can't grant relief under a political argument.
That's right.
Plain and simple. That's the reason why they were dismissed.
Well, the
I mean, it
state of
took
Maryland, the state of Maryland could not. The Democratic Committee could not. They're a political party. They've got no standing against the president. Why? Because a political party is the way it's set up is a not for profit organization. Remember, there's that two forms of nobility, the higher and the lower. The nonprofits are in the lower. For profit corporations are in the higher. I remember the difference between the subsidies, right? Those of us who actually do things for a living, provide goods and services, battleships, roads, airplanes, all that other stuff, versus these services by these nonprofits that are rolling over in all this virtual capital. Remember
mm-hmm.
that litmus test. So, you know, the letter of the law, right? Going back to the Declaration of Independence, my favorite document in history, the long chain of abuses and usurpations, et cetera, et cetera. Well, here's the object, here's the design. Now, what are we going to do? Now we have HR 202.
Alter,
Now,
reform, or abolish.
mhm. So
There's three
we,
options.
we played the clip, right? Chaffetz came out and said, yeah, it's these same actors literally wrote their own rules. I think the Constitution in separation of powers strictly kind of prohibits that,
Kinda.
right? That's using a position of advantage, right? To
Mhm.
take it to take advantage of another
Yep.
person, place, or entity or thing or whatever, right? Weaponized family court. I think you've heard that once or twice. So,
Yep.
you know, and in retrospect, what does this have to do with Christina and the kids? Class? Anyone? Anyone? Oh, that's
Lego.
right. Not a damn thing. So, that's the injury by fellow servant. And so it turned into, look, yes, I volunteered to do this job and I'm going to do it because I've been doing it forever. Is this the version that I wanted to do? No. But here's the reason that I'm doing it because I don't want to do it. And I already know what the job description is. We've been over it with PowerPoints how many times. Been through the fiduciary principles and practices, like I asked Lindsey Graham, where's the fiduciary duty lie? You tell me, bro, and I'm out. I'm at it. Well, now we got HR 202. There's my answer. So short version is it's I know it's coming. It's coming in the mail. I'm gonna be, walking into the prosecutor's office. You're in my chair, boy.
Yep.
Write your username and password down. You're out of here. I'll call you when I need you. And that's basically the short version because
It's how
many
loss
of us,
prevention works, anyways.
many of us have that same problem. Trump's having that problem. Dianne Feinstein was having that problem. Remember with that Chinese driver, that foreign emolument? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So it's like,
You going
well,
after the bar, bro?
right. So one R, not two, Bill. One R, just for clarification purposes there. So,
Yeah. The
yeah,
International Bar Corruption Association,
exactly. That's the one, the SMU. So, you know,
which
uh,
happens to be registered and operated out of London, by the way.
exactly. So the the irony, the whole irony behind all this stuff here was, oh, this is divide and conquer, divide and conquer. I think I got that book sitting over there on the shelf. It's called The Art of War. So
Mm-hmm.
read it more than once. So, that was simple. We're taught basic, battle tactics and battle strategies. Simple. So,
Yeah.
but
So let's do a little field update. Field
you do that. I'm
been,
going to go do
has
some
made it.
sharing.
Field has made it to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He was picked up yesterday and made it there this morning. Already had his initial appearance, which was through video, and oddly enough, they actually granted him $100,000 bond. Now, why couldn't they have done that to begin with?
Paperwork that we saw said no bond. They were
Right.
claiming he was a flight risk, as I recall.
They're still claiming threatening of the family members and all that. And it's like, wait a minute. Then you turn around and make the statement that, well, we know that he's not from Florida. Oh, wait, what happened to the prerequisite part of the law? In order to even get an extradition warrant, you have to prove that the crime scene actually happened in this case, Broward County, Florida.
Right.
That he was physically present. I mean, this is a requirement of
Right.
law for the governor to even sign off on an extradition warrant.
Right.
The second part was, where's the grand jury indictment? The
You know,
governor was supposed to verify those two specific things before he could sign off on the warrant.
right.
Now, the question this brings into play here is whether or not are these actual real documents that governor signed off on, or are
Not
these
like we've
all
never seen them
more
forged documents.
fake documents, and the governor has no idea what's going on?
Right.
Because as far as we understood, he wasn't going to sign off on an extradition warrant because of all of that.
Well, also remember, too, not to put too fine a point on this, remember the 2018 midterms, anybody who lives here in Florida, where was the epicenter of all that election corruption? Oh, that's right, Broward County. Oh my God. It's like,
Yeah, this is the
I don't know, how many different ways I can be more clear about this than, you know, the way I've been. But, so this is what I said. Said, hey, let's do it this way. We know what's going on. We know you know what's going on. Here's what you need to do. What you need to be doing is you need to be paying attention to who are the actors involved and where are they? What are they saying?
here's a good question. What is jurisdiction if it's online cyber stalking? Here's the thing. First of all, and this is the crazy part, even looking at paying my bill for my internet,
Right.
it comes through as entertainment.
That's what the court called it.
Internet is for entertainment purposes only.
You mean media,
Well,
social media.
but it's still for entertainment purposes only
I'll be
because
damned.
it's not a necessity. If we
Mhm.
were to shut down the internet right now, would people still have food, clothing, and shelter? Yes, yes. Same thing we had prior to the internet even becoming a thing. So this is why it's been dubbed long time ago when it was first created. This is for entertainment purposes only.
Right.
So, but
Seems
to
simple enough
further
to me.
clarify any of that, per the law, if we were going to say that this crossed interstate lines, state lines, so Wisconsin and Florida, the Constitution dictates that it would go to the federal district court, previously ascertained by law, for the defendant.
Right.
So the moving party in Florida should have filed in a federal district court in Wisconsin
Yeah.
for the initial injunction, not through a family court
Right.
if there was actual threats of violence and stalking or any kind of felony crime that
Well,
should have
again,
went to a federal district court in Wisconsin,
could
previously
it be?
ascertained by law.
Well, could it be because they knew there was no crime scene? Hence, what's behind me on the board,
Right. Because
right?
see, this is the crazy part when people talk about, well, he said in the video. How did
So
you know
what?
about the video? Who's stalking who?
So what?
Oh, you mean you took time out of your precious day to go scouring the entertainment world
Right,
for a alleged video or a video, multiple videos, whatever, out of
right,
hundreds and hundreds of thousands of videos that are produced on a daily basis. You found Able Danger Channel, Field McConnell. How
right.
how did you come about that?
Yeah,
Stalking much?
right.
Because
So
that's
who's
stalking in my mind. I mean, if we're gonna play the cyber stalking card, uh, that's they're doing exactly again. Right back to Congress and what they're doing to Trump. They're doing exactly the same thing or claiming that someone else is doing the exact same thing that they are doing.
right? Same shit over and over and over. That's why I said it's the same shit show throughout history,
Yes.
right? Circular arguments that go nowhere, right? Oh, and by the way, where's the crime scene? Can she even show that she even got a hangnail
Right.
from surfing the internet? Because I've never gotten a hangnail from surfing the internet. Sorry. So
What, you never
you know,
hit your thumb with a hammer
I've hit
while
my thumb
surfing
with
the
a
internet?
hammer once or twice, but
While
I,
surfing the internet?
yeah, right. Well, let's see. I don't know. How could you surf
So,
the maybe
we
using
talk
the
about
mouse as a hammer? Yeah, I don't know.
we talk about the who did what, where, and when,
Right.
but in situations like this, it's like we have to ask the question of why.
Mm-hmm.
Let's answer the question of why.
Yeah.
Well, he was threatening it. Oh, okay, why was he if we're going to go with threats, alleged threats here? Why? Why was he doing what he was doing?
Mm-hmm. What was the
What was it
provocation?
about? I mean,
What's the
did
What's the
this guy just all
provocation?
of a sudden start claiming some woman's name or man's name out of Florida and making stuff up?
Yeah. What's the
No.
provocation? Right. Where was the civil due process here? The blue line. Right. Where
Where's
was
the
the meeting?
civilized process that was due to Field
Right.
or the rest of
Well,
us?
right. How the hell did they go straight? They usurped the civil one and went straight to that one, the red one.
But then
Huh?
I could have swore threats of violence was criminal in nature. So
Well,
that most
again,
definitely can't go through a family court.
well, don't
I
get me
mean,
started on the,
family
and
court
oh, by the way,
hearing
your
things that are
document
criminal in
says,
nature.
yeah, your document says certified family law form.
That
Well,
Article 1 court can't even exist.
according to the letter of Florida law, divorce is prohibited special law. So that's the letter of the law, right?
Right. Right.
So how the hell
No
does this
special
document,
proceedings.
how does this special document even exist? How the hell did you get approval for something that can't even exist in law?
How did Florida Supreme Court approve these family law forms? Under domestic violence, under the Violence Against Women Act of 1994,
Right?
found to be unconstitutional in 2000, reauthorized in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And you
how do
tell
you
me that there's no
reauthorize something that was
political
found to be unconstitutional to begin with?
That's right. So you're going to tell me there's no political agenda going on here? Well, hell yeah, we know there's a fucking
Would that be
political agenda
would
going
that
on. You
would that
wouldn't be
be
sitting here
individuals
watching
and
if you
entities
didn't know
involved
that.
in serious human rights violations, human trafficking, and corruption?
Well, anyway, I mean, the
Well,
point
I mean,
is,
isn't that what Trump put out there?
well, once or twice
Worldwide, going
anyway.
after those involved in serious human rights violations, human trafficking, and corruption.
Right.
That is what they're doing.
13818, I think was the order number, wasn't it?
You got me on that one. So, they're not following due process of law. And, what do we do at E-Clause? We go after bad actors in government
In
who
government,
trespass the law for emoluments violations.
right?
And where do we go with that? We go to the legislature, the DOJ, Department of Defense, Secret Service. That's where Trump's reorganized things, put it back in at least some sort of proper Republican in character and form of a republic, of our
Right.
Constitution.
Yeah. So
Because that's what it
basically,
says under the letter of the law.
right. So
Ish.
remember, and we've already done this, right? Right. Well, here's one example, right, from 2019 in Texas, right? That remonstrance, we went again as an extra county. Judicial mandate was issued, right? Actually, we did it. It ended up in so, which is of course is it's part of this document. I believe he's posted this. You can find that on kids. I think it's Kids Have Rights Too. You can find Nate there. But we went in there under what's this? Oh, the defendant by plea or exception becomes plaintiff because they made some fictitious allegations against my client. We went in there and beat their ass and showed them that, oh, those are not entitlements, dude. That's an emoluments violation. Congratulations. You're a mother. You're busted. You're caught. Right? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's a wait a minute, what? Well, yeah, come to find out that was uh two or three Congresses ago. So it was before the current Congress that's sitting there now. So we're saying, who the hell came in and brought this crap, this word salad in here? Dude picked it up and looked at it and said, that's a good goddamn question because it doesn't even come close to Section 7 in the Masons, man. If the word Constitution isn't even in the order that establishes the emolument, how are you going to claim constitutional protections exist? Poof, 1,250 cases dismissed in one day. So that's due process of law. And because it was brought proper before the court, I didn't have to go talk to the judge about that. We already got the standing. It's behind me on the wall over here. So, you know, I keep getting granted standing in all these different states because we're going in there and saying, oh, by the way, this Sharia shit made up doesn't even exist in my republic. Get that shit out of here. So, because we brought it proper before the court through the legislature, right? Now the court can go in there and say, "Oh, thank you, Jesus." Now I can go in here and smack the shit out of these guys, and that's what they're doing. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So here's, that one brief that I made, working on revamping it for who.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But let's go read through some of this here because this is really good stuff. Not to anyway. Treatise on Arrest and False Imprisonment. This book's about liberty. It's about the lawful and unlawful means by which government acts in depriving an individual of his liberty. History teaches the deprivation of liberty is here. I'm going to go over here. Is taken away arbitrarily. Is liberty is more often arbitrary and unlawful than it is otherwise. At least this is always the tendency of those who hold executive power. Daniel Webster once stated this problem in these words: the contest for ages has been to rescue liberty from the grasp of the executive power. Liberty is taken away or deprived most commonly by arrest and imprisonment. The practice of easy arrests and secret imprisonments, easy emoluments of statutable plunder, has always been an earmark of a despotic executive power. To compound this problem, we have the legislative mills which turn out thousands of new laws every year. The passion of modern legislatures to regulate every facet of the most intimate concerns of everyday life is notorious. That's why it's a declared act of tyranny,
Right.
subjecting us to pretended acts of legislation. Number two, bills of attainder, bills of pains and penalty, are strictly prohibited in our form of government. That's legislation that prescribes punishment. If you do this, here's the punishment. That's a bill of attainder or bill of pains and penalty. That's unlawful. It's foreign to our form of government, repugnant to our law. This would be oppressive enough if administered under the requirements of a warrant or summons. Imagine that. Why does the Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment say what it says? Because of that right there.
There you
But
go.
it becomes doubly intolerable if every zealous officer is authorized to arrest on sight every person whom he detects breaking one of these bills of attainder. No one can be safe to leave their home or to travel about for fear of being subject to thousands of unknown laws in which he could be instantly arrested for transgressing. One law review writer states the problem as follows: people no longer live their whole lives in the village in which they were born. They pass freely from place to place and in transit go through innumerable towns and villages. The risk of being arrested on sight because one's conduct contravenes some regulation, which the wisdom of the local saloons deem necessary, talking about the bar, is appalling to any thinking person. It would be impossible to know at what moment one might become amenable to arrest. That's why we have the law on making an arrest without a warrant, with or without a warrant, right? Without a warrant, it's only a breach of the peace, and that's it. Or for a felony, felonies are what? Murder, kidnapping, rape, assault, and battery. That's it. Those are felonies. The rest of it is shit made up, color of law, bills of attainder. You can't
That's right.
convert even rights or even a privilege into a privilege into a crime.
Right.
Right? They call it a felony. But if you're going to do that, you got to have a grand jury indictment. Plain and simple. See the Sixth Amendment or Fifth Amendment. Sixth.
Sixth Amendment. That's that
Sixth.
basic Magna Carta due process, right?
Yeah. Basic Magna Carta due process of law. A revolution in England and the revolution of the American colonies are said by high authorities to have been largely influenced by promiscuous seizures and searches of persons and property. The history of our ancestors over the centuries teaches that a people cannot be free where the executive power can arbitrarily arrest or imprison citizens or ransack at will then properties of the people. The executive power, nope, wrong mouse. The executive power, where was I? The executive power is limited and guided by what? The law of the land or due process of law. They're synonymous, they mean the same thing. If it was a restriction upon the King of England, it must be so for every petty officer today. Basic Magna Carta due process of law. In many of the treatises on the law pertaining to the rights of citizens, and in many of the older and better court cases, we find the declaration: the law is very jealous of the liberty of citizen. What law is it that so regards liberty? It is the common law, and it declares that one who interferes with another's liberty does so at his peril. That's right. This law also prescribes how arrests are to be made and restrictions involved. I want to get down here too. Past all that. Oh yeah, I gotta cite this one. Oh, where is it? Maybe not. But we'll go with here. Fraud upon the court. There are no statute limitations on fraud except for clerical errors and mistakes, and fraud vitiates everything. United States versus Throckmorton, 98 U.S. 61, 1878. In the Bullock versus United States case, the court said fraud upon the court is fraud which is directed to the judicial machinery itself and is not fraud between the parties or fraudulent documents, false statements, or perjury. So there's a clear distinction between fraud upon the court and fraud. Fraud upon the court is the judicial machinery, the mechanism, the mechanics of it. It is where the court or a member is corrupted or influenced, or influence is attempted, or where the judge has not performed his judicial function, performed his duties under his emolument. thus, where the impartial functions of the court have been directly corrupted. That's fraud upon the court.
And that's what we've been talking about a lot since we've started this show, haven't we?
Yes, sir, indeed.
Those malicious designs of men that must be thwarted.
And there's the U.S. versus Morrison case, 529, 598, 2000, where it was found to be unconstitutional as it violated the Commerce Clause in Section 5 of the 14th Amendment. Plain and simple. This has already been discussed.
Yup.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Here we go. What is domestic violence? Article 4, Section 4 talks about domestic violence. And here we go. As we can read and comprehend, unless you didn't pass grade school, and understand, stand in agreement, what domestic violence actually is, as it is written in law. It is about invasion, an attempt to overthrow our form of government, which is exactly what Congress has done in 1994 with the Reauthorization Act of 2005 by redefining domestic violence, which the people and our Congress have no authority to alter, and creating the Violence Against Women Act, and usurpation of power, which is a declared act of a tyrant, our declared enemy in the Declaration of Independence, July 4, 1776. It is the conduct and characteristics of a tyrant that makes them our enemy, which giving aid to our enemies is treason. He is combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, given his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. Then a few other declared acts of tyranny, this shit made up civil process, when it is criminal in nature and is supposed to follow criminal process under criminal law, assault, battery, but goes through family law, family court, juvenile court, deprives one of the most basic fundamental rights of due process of law, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury. That's the Declaration of Independence. And no man shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property, should have been without the consent of a lawful jury. More importantly, the right of jury nullification. That's one of those benefits of a trial by jury that's being deprived. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance by creating police forces, social workers, child protection services, which are standing armies, which he has kept among us in times of peace, standing armies, without the consent of our legislatures, which means they have to declare war in order to have a standing army, which they receive their wages, emoluments, then end up paying for their homes, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. It's a declared act of tyranny. And at the end of a barrel of a gun, take our children, fathers, mothers, husbands, wives, and other family members by force and violence, and sometimes even murder them. Oh, what's the Declaration of Independence say there? For protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of the states.
Right.
Then protect the murderers, batterers from any punishment by doing internal investigations, and they are most often not punished, and our complaints are discarded. It's like the fox guarding the hen house. Furthermore, pursuant to the protection order, the right of the people to keep and bear arms is arbitrarily taken away without due process of law. A bill of attainder, bill of pain and penalty, which is a right that cannot be taken away, as it is a natural right, as a part of the law of nature to defend our life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness, not only from criminals, but from a tyrannical form of government, fundamentally and principally in accordance with the American common law, the law of nature, and the supreme law of the land, which prohibits any infringement of any of our private rights. Government was not instituted to dictate to the people what our rights are and how we exercise them. In fact, it was instituted to secure these rights from a despotic government. Oh, oh, I guess we got our government backwards here, don't we?
Whoops.
So here's that Commentaries on the Constitution by Chief Justice Story of the Supreme Court of the United States of America in 1833. This would be Book 3, Chapter 34. Yep. The fourth section of the fourth article. Oh, no, maybe not. What is that? 10, that's 50, that's 41. Pages 677, 678. Guarantee of Republican government mode of making amendments. In other words, making law. The fourth section of the fourth article is as follows. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government, not a Democrat form of government, not a democracy. It says Republican form of, we are a republic.
That's right.
Right? And here's some of the things that Article 4, Section 4 says. To protect each of them against invasion.
Right.
On application of the legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened against what? Domestic violence.
There it is.
The want of a provision of this nature was felt as a capital defect in the plan of the Confederation, as it might, in this consequences, endanger, if not overthrow, the Union. There it is. One of the key elements of why we created the federal government. This is one of them. See Federalist 45. Okay. Without a guarantee, the assistance to be derived from the national government is repelling domestic dangers. That's that domestic violence. Has nothing to do with family, does it? No. Which might threaten the existence of the state constitutions, could not be demanded as a right from the national, from the national government. Usurpation might raise its standard and trample upon the liberties of the people, why the national government could legally do nothing more than behold the encroachments with indignation and regret. A successful faction might erect a tyranny on the ruins of order and law. 1833, folks. That's after the original Constitution. That's after the Revolution. This is the top judge of the United States of America in the Supreme Court of the United States in 1833. These are his words. Okay. While no succor could be constitutionally afforded by the Union to the friends and supporters of the government, but this is not all. The destruction of the national government itself or of neighboring states might result from a successful rebellion in a single state. Oh, like New York or California or,
Right.
like, oh, we won the popular vote. See. Well, that's a good thing our founders put that electoral college in there so we didn't have 3 states of the whole union dictating who our president's going to be. But
Right.
so who can determine what would have been the issue if the insurrection in Massachusetts in 1787 had been successful and the malcontents had been headed by a Caesar or a Cromwell? If a despotic or monarchical government were established in one state, it would bring on the ruin of the whole republic. There it is. He calls it a republic, not a democracy.
It is.
Montesquieu has acutely remarked that confederated governments should be formed only between states whose form of government is not only similar, but also republican. Thank you very much. So, from the annotated Constitution, which my source there was law.cornell.edu under Article 4, Section 4. The first clause of this section is somewhat different language contained in the Virginia Plan, introduced in the convention, and was obviously attributed to Madison. Through the various permutations into its final form, the object of the clause seems like contract, seems clearly to have been more than an authorization for the federal government to protect states against foreign invasion or internal insurrection, a power seemingly already conferred in any case. No one can now resurrect the full meaning of the clause and intent which moved the framers to adopt it, but with the exception of the reliance for a brief period during Reconstruction, the authority contained within the confines of the clause has been largely unexplored. Again, I call bullshit on that. The full meaning is there to protect us from internal insurrection,
Right.
unconstitutional anal oppressive statutes.
Right.
That's why it's in there.
Yep.
But they don't want to. They don't want to tell the truth. See?
Right. You mean shit made up?
Now here we go. Right. Yeah. In Luther versus Borden, the Supreme Court established the doctrine that questions arising under this section are what? Say it with me, Chris. Political,
Oh,
not
absolutely.
judicial, in character, and that it rests with Congress to decide what government is the established one in a state. Well, I'm sorry, but Congress doesn't even get to decide that because Article 4, Section 4 dictates that it's a Republican form of government.
There it is.
They're supposed to uphold it or support it, uphold.
Well, and again, that's what's behind me on the board.
Here.
I was just going through this with some people because they were like, well, explain the supremacy clause and how the United States Constitution affects the state constitution and da 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 da. So I broke it down and put it up on the board for them. Every one of them got it. So,
Yep. But there it is. This already been discussed. Under Article 4, Section 4, domestic violence is about internal insurrection, invasion, and an attempt to overthrow our government, and it is a political argument, not a judicial one. So how do you go through a family court for domestic violence? Who's doing invading here? Where's the internal insurrection? Oh, that would be exactly what you guys are doing. Uh-oh. Again, you're already put on notice. You know. I know that you know. Okay. But then here we go. Let's go back in. Luther versus Borden. The court indicated that it rested with Congress to determine the means proper to fulfill the guarantee of protection to the states against domestic violence. Right, but you can't redefine what domestic violence is. You didn't write the Constitution. You're bound by the Constitution. And then we'll get into that. But there it is, right? But that instead, Congress had, by the act of February 28, 1795, authorized the president to call out the militia in case of insurrection against the government of any state.
You mean Executive Order 13781?
Well, no, that's not calling out the militia. That doesn't call out the militia.
Hey, that was a call for any citizen that had the knowledge to help him rebuild the executive branch. Right. I said, I volunteer. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So now we're going to go down to, hopefully, your right to freedom of speech. And Ninth Amendment there, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people.
Oh, yeah.
That's what sovereign citizen does.
Right.
That's exactly why Madison wrote the Ninth Amendment the way he did. There are other rights that are not enumerated here that are retained by the people, and you cannot deny them or disparage them
Right.
for claiming and exercising those rights. Well, that's exactly what sovereign citizen does. It's by evil design. That's that malicious designs of men must be thwarted.
That's right. Kind of my
Okay.
job description.
And look at
Just
that. The
saying.
powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Now, because of the Ninth and the 10th Amendment and the fact that the Bill of Rights says that these are articles in addition to, but it says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights. That would be this Bill of Rights, because it says articles in addition to the Constitution and amendment, not amendments,
Right.
amendment. The Bill of Rights is a standalone document, although it is attached to as articles in addition to. And we've showed that. Right up until around 1878-ish, they were all, the way the Constitution was printed was these were articles. Article the first, article the second, article, they were not amendments. They fundamentally altered the Constitution in 1871. So what are some of those powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution? How about the power not to make law? How about the power not to redefine what domestic violence is? Oh, wait, that question's already been asked right here. Commentaries on the Constitution. Oh, wait, no. We need to get into the, oh, yeah, we'll go back to the odious claim here in just a minute. Jurisdiction must be given. It cannot be assumed. Groups sometimes assume powers that they do not have. That's that first fundamental of group decision making. Now, the Mason's Manual Legislative Procedure. So let's go into, if I can get to it here. Oh, yes. This is such a good book. Are the servants in government authorized to alter the fundamental law or the constitutions?
No.
The law of nations, right? 1714 through 1767. Wait a minute, 1767, that is right there just before our revolution, is it not? Sure is. Now, if you read this book and you read, because this is the law of nations, this is international law, folks. This is above constitutional law hierarchy. So, America happens to be the name of our nation here. This is Book 1, Chapter 3, Section 30, of the support of the Constitution and obedience to the laws. Wait a minute. What laws? That's right. The Constitution is the law. Well, the Bill of Rights. Declarations lay down the law, not statutes. The Constitution laws of a state are the basis of the public tranquility, the firmest support of political authority, and a security for the liberty of the citizens. That's the law, not your shit made up color of law, bills of attainder, which is strictly prohibited in our form of government. But this Constitution is a vain phantom. Why? And the best laws are useless if they be not religiously observed. The nation ought then to watch very attentively. Are y'all watching very attentively, people? That's why we're here. That's why we're here, because we're being very attentive in order to render them equally respected by those who govern and by the people destined to obey. To attack the Constitution of the state and to violate its laws is a capital crime against society. And if those guilty of it are invested with authority, sitting in that emolument, they add to this crime a perfidious abuse of the power with which they are entrusted. So a capital crime, that's punishable by death. I don't know how you would double it, but the nation ought constantly to repress them with its utmost vigor and vigilance. Let's go, folks. Let's get some vigor and vigilance going here.
Pop a Viagra if you have to, for God's sake. Right?
It's not Friday. Oh, just kidding.
Well,
As the
shit. You never know what's gonna pop out, especially after a long day like today. Oh
right
God.
uh,
Ah,
as the importance of the case requires. It is very uncommon to see the laws and constitution of a state openly and boldly opposed. Well, not today, not in this day and age. It is against silent and gradual attacks that a nation ought to be particularly on its guard. Are we on guard, folks?
I'm
It gets
telling you,
better.
brother. I know I'm ready.
Sudden revolutions strike the imaginations of men. They are detailed in history. These are the same things that Chris and I, independent from each other, prior to even meeting each other, has already studied and come to the reasonable conclusion based in reality that we are, in fact, repeating history.
Yep.
We are already there again because they are detailed in history, and we've shared them with you on previous episodes and even in the educational series, episode 1 and
Right.
throughout. So, but we overlook the changes that insensibly happen by a long train of steps that are but slightly marked. It would be rendering nations an important service to shew from history how many states have thus entirely changed their nature and lost their original constitution. Remember, this was written before the Declaration of Independence. Notice some of the verbiage that's in here is in the Declaration of Independence.
Right. Exactly. My point. So.
Where do you think they got it from?
Right.
Right here, cited. Book 1, Chapter 3, Section 30. Imagine that. They actually probably read this sucker.
No, you mean reading means reading?
Yes,
Well,
sir, indeed.
shit. That's what we
So,
get for thinking means thinking.
now here's what he's thinking. This would awaken the attention of mankind. That's what we're here for, folks. We're trying to wake the attention. We're trying to wake you folks. Are you awake yet?
Hell yeah.
Impressed thenceforward with this excellent maxim, no less essential in politics than in morals. Principis obsta. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. They would no longer shut their eyes against innovations which, through inconsiderable in themselves, may serve as steps to mount to higher and more pernicious enterprises.
Right.
Okay, here we go. What are we doing, folks? We're gonna do something about this crap. Field McConnell's not the only one that this has happened to or happening to right now.
Oh yeah.
And this is
Well,
where we start to get even better. Here we go. Let's answer that question. Here again, a very important question presents itself. Section 34 of the legislative power and whether it can change the Constitution. It essentially belongs to the society to make laws, both in relation to the manner in which it desires to be governed and to the conduct of the citizens, those that are bound by the Constitution. This is called what? The legislative power. That power belongs to the legislature, not the executive and not the judicial. Separation of powers. The nation may entrust the exercise of it to the prince or to an assembly. The right to peaceably assemble, to call that assembly, to call them into assembly, to assemble for our good. That's not the right to protest. In a way, yes, it is,
sure it
but
is. But you do it
it's
on
the right
paper.
to call them into assembly. Protest is not standing on the sidewalk with a sign. That's called
Right.
picketing.
Right.
Protest is a formal written declaration of truth, declaring something unlawful is about to happen or something unlawful has already happened. That's a protest in writing.
That's what
Anywho,
I'm talking about.
Notice it says it goes to the legislative power to control that, right? Or to that assembly
Yep.
and the prince jointly, which would be in our system, our form of government. What did our founders create based off of this? Congress and the president, or Congress and the governor for the state level. It's still a Congress, whether you call it the legislature. It's a legislative branch, and in the
Right.
legislative branch, those members belonging to the legislature is the Congress. So you got Congress of the state and Congress of the federal government. They're essentially one and the same, except the federal has certain delegated powers and functions. So the nation may entrust the exercise of it to the prince or to assembly, or to that assembly and the prince jointly, who have then a right to make new laws and to repeal old ones. But how? Through an Article 5 convention. Unless you're talking about public law, policy, it is asked whether the power extends to the fundamental laws, whether they may change the constitution of the state. The principles we have laid down led us to decide with certainty that the authority of these legislators does not extend so far, and that they ought to consider the fundamental laws as sacred. If the nation has not, in very express terms, given them power to change them, and we didn't. Nowhere in the Constitution did we delegate a power for them to alter the Constitution or to change the fundamental law of due process of law or the
That's
common
right.
law, our
That's right.
rights. No, there are no powers, and I challenge any man out there who thinks they know the Constitution and how our form of government works to show me where that power was delegated, because it ain't there. I've read it quite a few times, and I've not found that particular article
Yep.
in the Constitution where it says, "Oh yeah, Congress can redefine what domestic violence is.
Uh-huh.
Congress can redefine what the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed means."
And
Uh,
wrong.
no, you don't get to
Th-
alter that.
That
That
would
was the
be
law that was
those.
laid down prior to instituting government. You're to
Well,
support that and
yeah,
defend that,
that's right. So that
not
would be
mess with it.
that would be that section 7, those constitutional provisions that stand on a higher plane than
That's right.
statutes. Okay, just making sure
Right.
we're on the same page there. So, yep.
Okay. So, for the constitution of a state ought to, and what we're talking about state here is a state of being, not the territorial landmass, because that's the territory, not the state.
Well,
State is
I'm glad you brought that up, because what is the state? It doesn't exist. It's a figment of the imagination. If we're talking criminal behavior, cases are brought in criminal court in the name of people versus defendant. It
right.
doesn't say state versus defendant. So again, once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. They have inserted this state, right, with this Sharia bullshit that they've brought into that we've proven in definitively since 96, right?
Right.
So that's why when you read higher court decisions, there's always no jurisdiction, because once the fundamental law and the fundamental government was altered with Sharia law, they lost all standing.
Uh
Hence the
huh.
reason we did what we did in Congress with the Holy Foreign Emoluments Clause shit, made up shit show we just dropped on the rest of the globe, right? So,
Right.
that's why I said the Supreme Court justices were pretty smart. I'm surprised that, say what you want about Justice Thomas and all that, and, or is it,
Right.
yeah, Chief Justice Thomas, whatever.
Not
But,
not
you know,
all of them are bad.
well, and again, you got to remember they've been lied to just as much as we were, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, Gorsuch came out and specifically said it. Don't put shit in there that doesn't belong. and don't take shit out that does belong.
Right.
Right? That's
That's what
oh,
it
that's
says.
yeah, that's
Leave
a
it
lie
alone.
by a lie by
You're a
commission
servant. Servants don't get to dictate. Oh, man.
to the master.
That's right.
So,
So here it is, right there. It's what it says.
right.
So, the fundamental laws are accepted. Well, let's go back. For the constitution of the state of being, which is a Christian nation, by the way, where we get our fundamental law from,
God.
the common sense law, should be self evident, as it states in the Declaration of Independence, which is why we didn't have that Bill of Rights prior to the Constitution. Because throughout history, the Bill of Rights was done first because you have to declare and lay down the law in order to institute government to protect it. So that's the trickery going on here. For the constitution of a state ought to possess stability. And since that was first established by the nation, which afterwards entrusted certain persons with the legislative power, the fundamental laws are accepted from their commission. It is visible that the society only intended to make provision, constitutional provisions are mandatory, and stand on a higher plane than what? Their shit made up, because I don't even know who makes statutes, not the legislature. Provision for having the state constantly furnished with laws suited to particular conjunctures, and for that purpose gave the legislature the power of abrogating the ancient civil and political laws that were not fundamental and of making new ones. But nothing leads us to think that it meant to submit the Constitution itself to their will. In short, it is from the Constitution that those legislators derive their power. And this is great right here. I love this part. How then can they change it without destroying the foundation of their own authority? By the fundamental laws of England, the two houses of Parliament, in concert with the king, exercise the legislative power. But if the two houses should resolve to suppress themselves and to invest the king with full and absolute authority, certainly the nation would not suffer it. Right. And who would dare to assert that they would not have the right to oppose it? Do we not have the right to oppose this shit made up? Yes, we most certainly do, because these are our servants trying to dictate to us. But if the parliament entered into a debate on making so considerable a change, the whole nation was voluntarily silent upon it, this would be considered as an approbation of the act of its representatives. So if we don't remonstrate and tell them, no, you can't do that, you don't have that power, that's an usurpation of power, and you're fired. If we don't do that, it can just go right on through, which is what's happened. Dereliction of duty. Now I've showed these ones here, American Jurisprudence, Constitutional Law, Section 1. I've showed this, but that's the main stuff that I just went over. That's it. I mean, that's the knee kicker, ain't it? You don't have that authority to alter the fundamental law or the Constitution. You cannot redefine what domestic violence is. And because nobody has stood up and said something about it, they're continuing to get away with it. Plain and simple. It's because we're not doing something about it. And we need to. We need to stand up and do something about it. And what is that? Remedy? Follow due process of law. We have to follow the law. Right? Aren't we? A lot of us out here bitching and complaining about how they are violating due process of law. And then you want to try and use the same shit that they're doing, and you're violating due process of law. You're muted over there, Chris.
Hate it when I do that. Sorry. I was trying not to interfere with your great presentation you had going on there. And
Yeah.
but you're absolutely correct in that, one of the ways that we do this, remember, anybody who's ever participated in a board meeting, right? Those board meetings come from somewhere. Those are called a quorum. Okay. So we just discussed this is from the Republic for Dummies book, right? Mason's Manual. And this is basically the process for officers and quorum of committees. This is exactly how you do it, right? So there is the selection of the committee chair and vice chairs, the acting chair, right? You have to establish the hierarchy, obviously. Um, Resignation of chair, right? There has to be a process to install and, of course, remove if necessary. What are the duties? What's the job description, right? I went through and showed what the fiduciary duty is. We did a whole PowerPoint on that, right? So I know what my job description is. Okay. Here's their job description outlined A through F, right? So this is the principal duties of the chair of a committee include. Okay. This is it is what it is. So appointment or election of other committee officers. Let's look at that just for a second. You want to assemble a committee to oversee CPS, for example. Okay. Um, don't you think you would want to have qualified people who have studied that problem? Right. Well, here's how you would appoint them or nominate them. I mean, there's multiple ways to state it, right? You could also call them as a witness through deposition, depose them, get a statement, right? And then submit that to the committee chair, right? To follow his or her duties right here. So, again, we talk about the presence of a quorum is required in order for a committee to act legally and officially. It has to be there. You can't transact business in a republic without a quorum. You can't do it. So when I cite as a fiduciary, citing the absence of a quorum, that means all that business is done, right? So anybody who's read the document, I've gotten multiple questions. Why do I cite the absence of a quorum? Because by doing so, that means any business that they're trying to conduct ain't lawful. It ain't legal. It ain't official. Quit doing it, right? So a committee cannot legally transact business, and it is irregular to proceed to the consideration of business in the absence of a quorum. However, this does not extend to testimony taken in hearings and public nature, or I'm sorry, of a public nature. So basically, break that down, right? Remember what I just talked about. You want to depose somebody and bring that document for deposition to be voted on before the quorum to transact the business, right? You don't need the entire quorum to depose a witness, right? Or to get a deposition from an expert, right? Somebody qualified in that area of expertise, right? Or if you want to impeach some junk science, there's a good methodology. Hey, we've got this science. Somebody's claiming this science, and I've got 5 other people over here that can debunk that smew, right? And these guys or girls or whatever, they've been doing it a hell of a lot longer, and they've got some pretty compelling data. So we've got something on the books. We got to get rid of that crap, right? So apart from such meetings, opinions of of members of a committee cannot be taken separately, nor should a report be circulated securing signatures of a majority of the members of a committee, and this report be submitted as a report of the committee. Again, there are certain things that need to happen within the proper process of the committee. So those rules you spell out, that process you spell out when you create your committee, right? So what constitutes a quorum, right? We've been through this a couple of different times. Let me just zoom out on that real quick. These are the elements that constitute a quorum. Okay. I mean, it's just this simple. If you're going to do oversight, okay, you have to do it correctly. So, you know, just by going in there and saying, you know, CPS has violated my rights, blah, 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 blah. Well, yes, that would be you would do a deposition, which would become a statement of facts, right? Or an affidavit that would be handed off to the executive branch for prosecution. I mean, or whatever. It depends on kind of thing because that bills of attainder are repugnant to the law, right? Remember, I showed that order. There's one that says I'm due a payment, but I know that order isn't lawful. I can't enforce an unlawful order. What I cannot do in my person, I cannot do through the agency of another. That would be me standing on those constitutional principles, the ones that stand on a higher plane than statutes and are mandatory, right? So, you know, I know what they're attempting to lead me to believe and what they're attempting to, what path they're trying to lead me down with this Sharia shit made up. I'm just too smart to fall for it. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night, folks. So, you know, when it comes to doing this job and being able to cite all the history where it comes from and why, you know, guess who's learning? Every one of us is relearning shit that we thought we had. My granddad is, if he said it once, he'd said it 1,000 times. If I could just remember half of what I've forgotten, you know, and he wasn't wrong.
Right.
He wasn't wrong. So, you know, that's why, I put the board up here behind me and, I went through, right? This is the establishment of civil process, criminal process, and where I specifically talk about civil, right? Does it rise to the level of civil on the probability scale or level, or does it rise to the criminality um, due process, the plausibility level or scale, right? That's that rising that I always talk about. So, and of
Uh,
course, the Constitution, supreme law of the land, right? That establishes the upper margin. It's the minimum due process. That's the minimum. You can't go below that. You can't go above it. You can
That's
only,
right.
that is your margin, right? In the corporate world, that is that profit margin we talk about,
Uh-huh.
right? So that's that market margin and capital, right? So, you know, this is why businessmen fundamentally understand the Republican business model so much more than bar actors do because we live it every single day.
Right. So going
So,
back just a little bit about the forgetting more than you can remember, remembering more than you forgot, half of
right.
what you forgot. When's the last time you rode a bicycle, brother?
You know what? I actually did it about 3 months ago and I didn't fall and I was really shocked. And I'm like,
Yeah,
holy
but
crap.
were you as good as you used to be?
I was a little rusty at first, but I picked it
Right.
back up again, you know.
Okay, so
So,
there's the key. A lot of us did learn the Constitution. At least those of us around our age, we did learn the Constitution
oh, yeah.
uh, in high school
Yep.
and civics class, right?
That's
So
right.
it's time to pick that sucker back up and read it and fully comprehend how
Mhm.
our form of government's supposed to work,
Right. Well, and
how it's
again,
supposed to function, and start remonstrating.
exactly. And, many of you who have done some fantastic remonstrances, I welcome you guys to post those in the group, share those with whoever, Malika's group, friends in law. Kirk's Law Corner, E-Clause groups. I mean, there's so many of them out there.
Yeah.
You guys are doing fantastic work. Shannon up in Michigan, up with Michigan We the People. There's, again, you know, all I can say is just wow. I'm dumbfounded by the level of commitment that I've seen. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that the people are not there. People are not incapable. They're certainly capable. It's just, where do I start? Well, and again, being in position of management, um, didn't want this job, never expected to do it at this level. Believe me, I was just like you guys. I just want to go back to my office and do this job for, you know, where I used to be. But, hey, there is a duty, not just to your family, but there's also a duty to your country. So,
Yes,
you know,
there is.
that's called priority. So to me, this was more important than just saying, oh, I'm going to go get mine and then I'm going back to work. Because I could have
Oh,
done
yeah.
that. Kirk could have done that. And, I'm not about that. I'm like, you know what? No, I ain't doing it. Matter of fact, I'm going to go here. I'm going to upload. I'm going to repost. Like, I got to get back in the habit of doing this. I'm going to copy and paste in the um, comment section here on the Facebook feed the link to the free PDF of the Mason's Manual
So
and pin that.
I brought this back up because I forgot to go back to it,
Oh,
but
right on.
you hit on that part of it's our duty, right? But Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, right? No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligations of contracts, or grant any title of nobility.
Oof.
Yeah. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3, and Clause 3 is the no bill of attainder, ex post facto law shall be passed. Clause 8, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8, should be the familiar one. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept any present emolument. This is the emoluments clause right here.
Right.
Office or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state of being.
Right.
Now, let's go into here, back to the Commentaries on the Constitution by Chief Justice Story of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. This is Book 3, Chapter 32, Powers of Congress, under the Nobility section. 682, section 682 through 684, page 487 and 488. Section 682. The next clause is no title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, except of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever. Esquire is a title of nobility from a king, from the English crown. Has
Right.
been for a very long time, folks.
Uh-huh.
There is no getting away from that title of nobility of Esquire.
Right.
And let's listen to what Chief Justice Story had to say in 1833. This clause seems scarcely to require even a passing notice. Right? This should be common sense here. As a perfect equality is the basis of all our institutions. Right? A perfect equality, as in all men are created equal.
There you go.
That's why we don't have titles of nobility in our form of government.
We don't need that.
We don't want that. It creates corruption, entitlements, advantages, profits, and gains, unlawful advantages in our republic, anyway. So, as a perfect equality in the basis of all our institutions, state and national, the prohibition against the creation of any titles of nobility seems proper, if not indispensable, to keep perpetually alive as just sense of this important truth. There it is. But wait, it gets better. Distinctions between citizens in regard to rank would soon lay the foundation of odious claims and privileges and silently subvert the spirit of independence and personal dignity, which are so often proclaimed to be the best security of a republican government. But it gets better. The other clause as to the acceptance of any emoluments, tide, or office from foreign governments, Esquire, is founded in a just jealousy of foreign influence of every sort. Whether in a practical sense it can produce much effect, has been thought doubtful, right? Here we go, folks. A patriot will not be likely to be seduced from his duties to his country by the acceptance of any title or present from a foreign power. An intriguing or corrupt agent will not be restrained from guilty machinations in the service of a foreign state by such constitutional restrictions. Still, however, the provision is highly important as it puts out of the power of any officer of the government to wear borrowed honors, Your Honor, which shall enhance his supposed importance abroad, foreign, by a titular dignity at home. Sorry, but let's look at what odious as an adjective, extremely unpleasant and repulsive.
I love this part. This cracks
So,
me up.
for a bar member to claim that you can't practice law without a license is an odious claim. Let's do some synonyms. Remember that back in like fourth grade? Synonyms, antonyms.
Right.
Revolting, repulsive, repellent, repugnant, disgusting, offensive, objectionable, vile, foul, abhorrent, loathsome, nauseating, nauseous, sickening, hateful, detestable, excrement, execrable, abominable, monstrous, appalling, reprehensible, deplorable, insufferable, intolerable, unacceptable, despicable, contemptible, beyond the pale, unspeakable, poisonous, noxious, obscene, base, hideous, grisly, gruesome, horrendous, heinous, atrocious, awful, terrible, dreadful, frightful, obnoxious, unsavory, unpalatable, unpleasant, disagreeable, nasty, distasteful, dislikable, off-putting, displeasing, informal, ghastly, horrible, horrid, gross, putrid, sick-making, yucky, god-awful, informal, beastly, informal, bogging, informal, skanky.
Skanky.
That's one of my favorite ones.
I know you do. Just love skanky.
Those would be a skanky claim. Get your skanky ass out of my government.
That's right.
Literary noisome, archaic, disgustful, scurvy, loathy. The odious methods they have used to suppress dissent. Well, you're not a member of the bar. You don't have a license to practice law. Well, there is no such thing as a license to practice law,
Doesn't
not issued by the
exist,
government, anyways.
right?
Not in our form of government. We're not a
Right.
monarchy.
Ron goes, "Hey, I'm eating. Chill." Sorry, Ron. Love you, brother.
So tell me, folks, after reading that right there from the Supreme Court Justice, right? The United States of America back in 1833 about them titles of nobility would be an odious, skanky claim. Poisonous, noxious, obscene,
Shit made up.
revolting, repulsive, repellent, repugnant, disgusting, offensive, objectionable, vile, foul.
Whoopee cushion.
That's what the bar is. Are you going after the bar, bro?
Oh, you
'Cause
bet
I
your
sure
ass.
am.
You bet your ass. You bet your ass. So,
You're welcome. Commentaries on the Constitution by Chief Justice Story.
oh
There you
yeah.
have it.
Well,
As he
that's why I
discussed the
said
titles of nobility and emoluments clause of the Constitution of the United States of America in 1833.
I'm so excited I can barely sit still, right? Because remember, of the duties of the emoluments of the office that I hold a title, that I hold an oath to, what is the first and foremost important duty of a notary? To maintain what? Truth in the record. Duh. So, of every one of those offices, every one of those emoluments I could have sworn an oath to, the one that I swore the oath to, and of course, by the way, the notary's job, another job of a notary is to administer an oath, to attest to the truth of the one speaking the oath. So, to know a thing and to be bound to know it are regarded in law as equivalent. I think I'm bound to know that, right? So, when I go in as an officer in
Ossifer?
my official capacity and state, hey, you got some shit made up going on here.
Yeah.
Um, that provision stands on a higher plane because I have an oath of office that says, hey, you're required to do this, dude. So, you know, sorry, bar members, I'm sworn to do that every damn day. Sorry if you don't like that, but tough titty said to kitty. So,
Bar. Bar. Going
yeah.
bye bye.
And as far as fiduciary
That
duty
is
goes,
repulsive and repugnant and skanky and vile and disgusting.
well, again, if I didn't have a fiduciary license, right, the capacity to act on behalf of another, how would I even know to ask the question? Where does the fiduciary duty lie, Senator Graham? You tell me, and I'll go have at it.
Right, right,
So,
right.
that's why I said,
But we're supposed to instruct our representatives, so
well, that's why I
to
said,
perform specific duties under their emoluments.
well, and
That's
again,
why
that's
we
why I said,
instituted government.
well, we've already
One of the reasons.
acquiesced. We've already acquiesced. We've already come to the agreement what the fiduciary duty is. It's the strictest duty of care recognized by the U.S. legal system. Hell, even the goddamn court recognizes it. So, over and above the bar membership, which is why they get so pissed at me. And I don't care. And I just think it's hilarious because it's like, wait a minute. Uh, I actually feel kind of stupid in a certain way because I actually gave the job to a junior officer who really doesn't possess the credentials that I do to go handle business that I should have handled myself from the word go and avoided all of this bullshit, right? But, again, that's what I get for trusting somebody, right? Who was going to, oh, I can do the job. I can do the job. Yeah, sure you can. Yeah. How's that working for you? Because near as I can tell, um, many of those members are jumping ship. They're duplicating what I did behind me on the wall, saying, you know what? There's something to this. I went
Yes.
I went to law school to practice law, and to defend the interest of my clients and act on behalf of my client. If I have to be a member of this bar association and be intimidated by these fucks, that's not what I went to law school for. Remember, there's plenty of them out there that are good ones, and they're damn good at it. Don't let them fool you.
If this is supposed to be self-evident and common sense law,
Yep.
because the law is supposed to be written in plain English so that the average man can read it and comprehend it.
Right. So
Okay. So what's the problem here?
the problem is they're bullied
are
into
we
this.
running out of people with an IQ greater than room temperature in Alaska or what?
Nah, basically what it is again, they were lied to constructively. You were lied to constructively. I was lied to constructively. Christina was lied to constructively.
Right.
Or destructively, however the hell you want to put it. So
And
that's what I said. I'm sitting back. Remember, I was married to this woman, so I know her in the biblical sense. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to forewarn every bastard out there who bullshit her, because I can tell you, when she finds out, this was the woman who was graduated summa cum laude, right? She was the smartest woman in our class. I don't marry stonad. So if you speak Italian, you know what I just said. So, you know, when she figures out you bullshit her, where's my popcorn? Because I am going to sit back and I'm going to enjoy watching her just walk in there and just line every one of you up and just, I'm going to be like, I warned you.
Right.
I warned you.
Well, this goes right back to, what I preach a lot is we need to have compassion for our fellow man because we have been lied to. We've all been lied to, even the bar
Right.
members, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even the police officers have
Yeah.
all been trained. They've been lied to that they have this power, and it
Well,
doesn't exist in our form of government. That's
again,
foreign to our form of government, repugnant to the law.
when you're talking to one, and I mean speaking, not, you son of a bitch,
Yeah, standing
hey,
at the grocery store in line.
right. But by the way, just for the sake of curiosity, because I'm getting all kinds of conflicting information, you hold an oath of office, right? Yeah, yeah. What do you know what your oath is to? Because I hold an oath of office myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know what my oath of office is to, or at least I think I do. So and here's my perception of it. What's yours? And you'd be surprised how many times I've heard them say, well, my oath is to statutes.
That's what I get.
You know what I do? I hand them. Here's what I'm going to show you what I hand them.
Yeah.
And when they find out they've been lied to, oh God, they get pissed. I hand them one of these. It's 9 pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I scroll down here to old page 7 and flip that sucker up there and go, what does that say right there?
The Idaho Code is not the law. The Code Commission has no legislative authority.
Right.
But then again,
So,
neither does the legislature have the power to make law.
well, my point exactly.
Law, in the sense of real law, the self-evident common law, the fundamental law that has nothing to do with the establishment, support, or management of government.
But remember, so I always say, choose your battles. Do you want to fight or do you want to win? I want to win.
Right.
I want them to know and understand that they were lied to and it had nothing to do with me.
Right.
So when I hand them that case and they go and they look at it and they go, same as Christina. The difference between, well, I don't know if the difference is that different between a cop and Christina, because the cop's only carrying a gun. Christina's worse than a gun. Okay. I mean, just call that spade a spade. It is what it is. But you get the point. And but I mean, that's it right there. So talking about nothing other than, I think you've been schnookered, bro, or young lady, or
Well,
whatever.
what I've done is when I ask that question is like, what is your oath? Well, my oath is to the statutes. I'm like, well, why does Article 6, Clause 2 and 3 says that 6.2 says that the judges in every state shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution? And then Article 6, Clause 3 says that everyone from the legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, both state and federal.
Mm-hmm.
What branch of government are you from? Well, I'm from the executive branch. Okay. So your oath is to the Constitution, not the statutes. Statutes are not the law.
Yeah.
This is the law.
So if somebody's feeding you misinformation, right, and you want evidence of that, here's the Peterson case that confirms that. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go ask the judge. And don't think they won't. Don't think they won't. So, again, they're waking up as well, because they're going, what in the absolute hell is going on around here? I mean, it's why, and these conversations happen just spur of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why I carry a briefcase full of this shit around. I never know what I'm going to run into. But the point is, when these people find out that they were lied to as well, they get pissed. Well, who did the lying? That would be one of those foreign emoluments, huh? Yeah, those bureaucrat foreign emoluments, that shit made up's going on in Washington and all over the state. Oh yeah, I'd heard all about all that. Well, we got law against that now in Florida. We've passed anti-lobbying legislation, so anybody around the state of Florida who's doing that lobbying, those volunteers, right, that can't even count with an app, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You guys you might want to rethink your relationship to those people and pay better. Go read your state's constitution, and above everything else, you might want to get yourself one of these. And if anything they're telling you is in conflict with that constitution or what's in this book, you have a problem.
It is what it is.
So again, this is a defense contracting company. You want help on learning how to do it? You know where my phone is. Well, you don't know where my phone is, but my phone is always at least within earshot. Can't always get to it. But you can pick up the phone, make a phone call, send an email, smoke signals, whatever. Which, by the way, that reminds me. I want to make sure that I cover all this stuff, because again, what we are doing here hasn't been done in a long time. Not in my generation, right? And I'm, well, just a few years old. Not to put too fine a point on that, but to those of you who have donated to the project, that's the way to donate to Kirk, right?
Yes, sir.
And
So that's the office address there. So
right,
that's your postal money orders, cashier's checks, regular money orders, all the good stuff, or cash wrapped in aluminum foil.
right.
And then PayPal is the Kirk_Pendergrass@hotmail.com. And then the Cash App is the $KPen71. That's the whole name.
Right.
For Cash App. It does include the $sign there. So the doll hair sign.
Doll hair sign, right? So also too, that's the way to reach out to me, right? There's my mailing address. My PayPal also doubles as my email, right? I try to keep it simple. This brings you right to this is the address that's established on my company, my corporation. So feel free to donate to the project here through PayPal. And there is also this is the states that we're in thus far. More are coming. And as those come to fruition, I will add those state seals to, well, I'm probably going to have to start a new slide, which is okay. I don't think anybody will be too brokenhearted. The more of these states I do, I mean, there are 50 of them at least. So, just saying it is what it is. These are your books, right? Masons, Roberts, um, Jefferson's. Those are the three primaries. Reed's, of course, is for Washington State. I believe that's their primary. We have taken liberty of putting together the 2010 PDF. Right, it's not the best quality that we would have done, but in a pinch, right? The reason that we did it was to for these PowerPoints, so we could put those scans into PowerPoints for you guys. But you know, um, necessity over being, of course, necessity overcomes law, right? When they changed the release date of the 2020 version, it's like, well, crap, we still got a whole year's worth of business to do. So, you know, the girls stepped up to the plate, scanned that book for you guys, and that link to that free download is right there in the Facebook Live. So, got that pinned to the comment section there for you. And also, um, some others have requested that I set up a Patreon, which I have done, and I'm going to share that with you as soon as it decides to reload, because I was just horsing around with that here a little while ago. And I'm just getting acquainted with the whole Patreon process. So, got just a couple of posts up there. I've also included the Mason's manual right there. It's on Patreon. You can download it for free, right directly from Patreon. You can sign up to be a Patreon, and there we go. Rick's already dropped a couple of comments. We're let's have a little fun with Rick. Love you, Rick. So, again, by all means, stop by and you know, uh, pick up any document you need, any resource materials you need. You know, there's I'm gonna get all the PowerPoints for everybody who's like out on YouTube and doesn't have access to the Facebook group. I'm gonna upload them into the Patreon as well. So you guys will be able to go directly to the Patreon site and get anything you need from my company right from there. So you won't even have to engage in social media if you don't want to. So, that's why I say I'm working on trying to get as much of this stuff out as fast as I can. Now with the monstrosity being back up and running again, so far it seems to be working okay. I think I haven't seen um uh any issues of um bad audio or video glitching out too bad. Um and there is, yeah, Cheryl, the whole um I don't know about the whole birthday thing. I was thinking about I was more concerned with making sure that the information was dispensed properly so people could pick it up, utilize it, and put it to work for themselves, because the Republic is, kind of like this mouse, right? It's a piece of equipment. How do you make it work for you? You have to learn how to use it. Well, that mouse has a user's manual. Our Republic has users manuals. Seems pretty simple, doesn't it? So that's again one of the reasons that we're doing this. And on that note, what do you think, bro? You got anything else you want to add? See, he stepped away from the computer right there. Looks like he has they've gotten a phone call. But try refreshing my Facebook feed here too, because it's all messed up. And I don't know what this back up again here. Those are the states. Yeah. Yeah. Military Mom says my biggest fan is still turning. That's right. You betcha. Yeah, Catherine, the damn toaster has a user's manual. And to all you ladies that say men never read the instructions. So this is what happens when men have to read the instructions. You know, it's uh-oh. Somebody's getting something rewired somewhere. So, and to those of you who are tuning in from around the world, I want to say thank you to you as well. Um, you know, this started out to be just a little project, right? I was going to go in and pretty much like the rest of you guys, right? And I'm going to figure this garbage out. I'm going to go in here and, you know, handle this problem, and then I'm going to go back to work. Well, again, that's that me and that damn fiduciary duty that's up there on the wall. I just can't seem to get away from it. You know, uh, then of course with the election of Trump and all those things we already know. But next thing we know, we are in multiple countries around the world discussing how to redress grievances lawfully. Get standing in the court, right? That's and remember, your standing is not just in a court, you know, hear ye court. When you walk into the legislature and the judge has mandated the standing that it's you versus this fictitious state, right, that doesn't exist. Um, you know, that's them basically stating, hey, this man or woman has figured this out. You need to listen to this person, right? So again, to those judges who have figured out that we know exactly what we're doing and how and why we're doing it, I just want to say thank you again and give you guys a shout out. That would be just judge my local judge here, Judge Cohen from the 5th District Court of Appeals. I want to thank Judge Sam Sparks from Texas for his valuable input on jurisdiction 28 USC 1443, and of course just Judges First and Newfer for the Utah case, which, by the way, I am outlining those 4 orders. Remember, we got jurisdiction in Texas and the cleanup process in Utah. I have yet to go over with you guys that cleanup process. So I'm putting that together and I'm trying to make that comprehensive. So when I go through a PowerPoint on that, I'll be able to take it down from beginning to end, why these things are working as they're working. This way, you guys will kind of be better in the know. The orders are posted, but if you've never interpreted an order and don't understand why these things are working in context with the process that we've laid out, right? I'm going to try to help clarify that for you. So, you know, again, as it's on the multiple to do list, and bless the hearts of the girls of, you know, trying to put all this you know, this stuff together for us, you know, in the background here. And so, but other than that, what do you got, bro? You all right there? We ready to call it a night? We done boring everybody for the night?
Yep. We're good for tonight.
Mm-hmm. So,
All right. So much love to everybody out there. Thanks for the likes, the follows, and shares, and keep on doing it.
Yep.
And over here on YouTube, the thumbs up and the subscriptions.
Yep.
And the shares. So again, if you find any of this information, educational information, advantageous to you, or you feel that you want to help support us in continuing this education and providing this right here,
right.
Please provide support. We're in need of support to keep going here, and without the support, we're not going to be able to keep going. At least this particular aspect of things. So,
well, you know, I want to say thank you, and I don't know who it was, and because they donated anonymously, I got a donation from across the pond.
Hmm,
So
nice.
whoever's watching us over there in the UK, and donated, I want to say thank yous to you personally, and appreciate all you're doing. The support for the show. Again, congratulations on Brexit. That was an awesome work you guys did. Got our support, that's for darn sure. So,
Heck yeah.
you know, we'll back you up on that one. Don't you worry. So,
This is a worldwide issue.
mhm. So,
Again,
people are
Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 has been a one world government initiative,
they've been trying this
even
forever,
clear back
folks.
as early as 1953. This has been around for a while. It's been in the plan, and this is exactly what Kennedy was talking about and why he was
Mhm.
assassinated, because he was going to expose the truth and he was going to try and attack it and shut it down then.
Right,
But I don't think he had enough people behind him,
right. There's
us, the
armies.
American people,
Yeah, there's
that were
armies of
awake.
us.
They're like,
Yeah,
wait, what are you talking about? The banksters and the bars in charged, and this is a form of human trafficking.
right.
What are you talking about?
Well, again, what is the remonstrance? The remonstrance, in a nutshell, short answer, it is the document that overcomes the bar members' 12B motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim for which relief can be granted, right? So it's if you're going to end up in the judicial branch, and most of you might, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see us solve these problems in committee, but for those of you who will end up in the judicial branch, there's going to be no 12B6s or 12C1s if it's criminal or whatever, right? So, it's um we're going in there and we're going to work, right? And I mean, it is what it is. No more of this corporate dead entity bullshit. Hey, we're on to that. Right? We know what a corporation is. We know how to use it. We're pretty damn good at this. We've
Mm-hmm.
been doing it for a while. So I get to be the car. So
I'll bring the wheelbarrow.
play Monopoly Corporate. I thought you'd be a good top hat. You'd be a good top hat. That fits you good.
All righty. All right. Thanks, everyone. And much love to everybody out there. Prayers for Field and everyone else abound. Um, it ain't over till it's over.
You got
Plain
that
and
right.
simple. And again, I'll reiterate, this is not going to end the way they think it's going to end.
Nope.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yep.
Again. So we'll see you on Wednesday night live.
You betcha.
So much love to everybody and have a wonderful evening.
Good night, everybody.